The clinical case of this patient is an aesthetically deficient composite at the tooth 21. The preoperative X-ray picture shows the very large volume of this restoration, which involves the whole of the incisal edge. The choice of shade is made using a Vita shade guide, from which it is evident that the A2 shade corresponds to the situation. The composite system chosen, namely the nanoceramic restorative Ceramix Duo, provides in an own shade system a recipe for all the Vita shades. For the A2 Vita shade, the recipe indicates a combination of two shades, E2, D2, i.e. enamel shade number 2 and dentine shade number 2. Ceramix Duo will therefore allow us to restore the tooth with two different opacities. The shade guide supplied in the Ceramix Duo kit will allow separate evaluation of the saturation levels of shade D2 and E2. The rubber dam is placed with ligatures around each tooth to ensure perfect isolation. We start by cleaning the dental surfaces with a small brush mounted at a contra-angled handpiece and a polishing paste, which is later removed thoroughly by means of prolonged rinsing. The old composite resin restoration is then removed, using a pear-shaped burr, reference 830. The translucency of the composite resin allows the dental tissues to be clearly differentiated from the filling material. The closer we get to the dentine, the more carefully we proceed. With small moves, we must take precautions so as not to damage the enamel of the neighbouring tooth. A large labial bevel is then produced, continuing it proximally to ensure perfect continuity in terms of tightness of restoration, in order to prevent any adverse colouring that may occur subsequently. The neighbouring tooth shall be protected while the proximal bevel is being made. The lingual bevel is then produced using an ovoid burr. This allows us to create a bevel with clearly visible edges that can be easily recognised. An abrasive strip finishes the proximal surface. This lingual view shows clearly the limit of the preparation. At this point, the whole of the preparation is finished, and we can start on the adhesion procedure. In this case, it consists of a single component system that uses an etching gel. Obviously, the neighbouring teeth must be protected with a metallic matrix in order to avoid contact between the etching gel and the teeth. The gel is applied homogeneously right across the bevel on the palatal and labial surfaces. The application time is of about 30 seconds, as we are essentially working on the enamel. Rinsing ensures thorough removal of the phosphoric acid, then followed by drying. It gives a chalky white appearance, typical of etched enamel. The adhesive system is then applied meticulously to all the conditioned surfaces. We take care that the adhesive system is allowed to penetrate into the exposed dentine. After the solvent is evaporated, the filling material must be light cured with the Smartlight PS. At this stage, the adaptability of the silicone guide prepared earlier with Aquasil soft putty is verified. The first stage of our restoration consists of masking the coloured dentine by applying a small amount of X-Flow, a flowable restorative used here in the opaque shade. A second layer of X-Flow is applied directly with this thin cannula in order to provide continuous masking of the brownish dentine. The positioning of the flowable restorative is adjusted using a probe and it is immediately light cured. A small amount of brownish dentine is still visible, encroaching onto the labial face, which is masked with the opaque shade of X-Flow. We now turn to the restoration of the lingual surface, which involves a layer of Ceramics Duo D2 material, i.e. dentine shade. The silicone guide is placed in the mouth. Care is taken to ensure that the composite does not run down to the edge. The adaptation along the edges can indeed be improved by use of the spatula. We can now proceed to several applications, always keeping the silicone guide in place. A second application is made here. Care should always be taken not to extend the material to the edge, as we are working with a dentine shade. This, because we wish to recreate the translucency at the edge of the restoration with the enamel shade. Each layer is thoroughly cured, and through successive applications, we produce the shape of the vestibular face, which in this case contains a number of small convexities, clearly visible on tooth 11. As it is one of the central incisors, the adjacent tooth can be taken as an ideal model, in order to restore the same morphological appearance. The central convexities are then formed, always working the material under compression with the spatula. The desired shape is created through compressing the composite against the tooth, so that it can be placed where one desires. Usually only one spatula is sufficient for this type of operation, especially on anterior teeth. The second convexity is then photopolymerized, and we progressively go on building up the vestibular surface. The first outlines of the mesial and distal angles that we have created are then photopolymerized, and we progressively build an anatomical configuration similar to that of the neighbouring tooth. An incisal view is of particular importance for appreciating the volumes that we've already restored. It helps us avoid excessive material that would, after polishing, hide all the enamel shade composite layers that we are going to apply subsequently on the vestibular face. We now see the enamel shade that's been placed and polymerized after each application. In the same way,